Everybody, this is Courtney with Fiber Fox Studios, and today we are going to be doing our normal Mosaic Monday. I have picked a little bit larger of a pattern that we're going to be working on together, so I'm going to be doing only one repeat of it. So I would call this more of like a advanced beginner tutorial. I think most everyone will be able to follow along with me as long as you've seen some of the other tutorials that I've done. This particular design that I'm going to teach here that you saw in the pictures at the beginning of the video and in the thumbnail, I am calling this series the Native Bliss series. There's going to be several different charts available, different versions of this on my Etsy store. You can find information about that down below in the description, the ways that you can purchase it, that sort of thing, all down there. You'll also find lots of other information down there in that description box, including the hook size that I am using, which happens to be a 4.25 millimeter for those of you who are interested. I will also have this yarn and the color numbers listed down below since I don't have the label on this particular one, but I am using the Hayfield Bonus DK Extra Value. I got this at Moore's online. You can use absolutely any yarn that you want. And we're going to jump into this tutorial and get started. This gray tone is going to be my color A, and this orange is going to be my color B. So select at least 2 colors of yarn and grab your crochet hook and a pair of scissors, and we're going to get started. For my more advanced watchers, you of course can always skip ahead to row 3 where the mosaic work is going to begin. The multiple on this design is 21 plus 4. So we're going to chain in multiples of 21 plus 4. And just in case you are skipping ahead, you are going to need to repeat rows 2 through 25 if you're moving up for additional repeats of this pattern. So that's just instruction for those of you who are moving ahead. So we are going to simply put a slip knot on our hook and we're going to begin chaining. So to chain, all we need to do is yarn over and pull through that loop that's on our hook. And you notice there it started to slide on me. That you can grab a hold of that little slip knot and hold it in place. So there's my first chain. So we're just going to continue to chain in multiples of 21. And then we will add 4 onto the end. So for me, I am going to chain a total of 25 and show you guys one repeat of the design. So you may pause here and meet back up with me when you have your total chain ready. And we'll move on to row 1. I have a total of 25 chains ready now, and we're going to begin row 1. So row 1 and all of our rows, we're actually going to be changing color except for row 1. Row 1 is going to be the only exception to that. We are going to maintain the same yarn. So for me, color A is this gray yarn. So I'm going to keep with color A, and I am going to be skipping this very first chain. So I'm going to skip this chain and I'm going to move here into the second chain, and I'm going to make sure that I insert under. We're doing a traditional single crochet. So I'm going to make sure that I'm under that V, and I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So that completes my traditional single crochet. For every single row, the beginning, so the very first stitch and the very last stitch is always going to be a traditional single crochet so that we can maintain nice straight sides. From here, row 1 is a really easy row. Our repeat for this row is going to be doing our back loop only single crochet. So we're going to insert into this back loop only. So 1 loop. We're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And that completes our first back loop only single crochet. All of our single crochets are worked in the back loop. So you're going to continue to work in this exact same manner all the way down this row. And then you'll meet back up with me when you have 1 stitch left so that we can do that traditional single crochet together. So pause here, meet back up with me in just a moment for the end of row 1. This is the end of row 1, and as you can see here, I have 1 stitch left. I've completed the back loop only single crochet in all those stitches, and we will now begin the end of the row by inserting under that V. So again, we want to make sure we are absolutely completely in the stitch. Just kind of turn sideways, but you want to see that V. It's really important that we go under both loops. Now we're going to yarn over and pull up one loop, yarn over and pull through two, and that completes our traditional single crochet. For me, I like to chain up two to bind off, and that's just to make sure I do not have anything come undone. You can bind off whatever way you prefer. I'm not saying this is correct. I'm just saying this is what I do. So I've chained up two, and now I'm going to clip my yarn because we're changing colors for row 2. So we clip, and then I go ahead and grab the hook and pull out that tail, and then I grab the tail and place my thumb and index right above those two chains, and then I'm going to pull up on my tail as I push down with my fingers to form that little knot right there. So we now need to move on to row 2. So we're going to stay, we're not turning our work, we're just returning here to the front of our row. So we're going to come here to the front of the row, we're going to grab our color B. So for me, that's this, looks orange on screen to you guys, but it's a really pretty, like, bright coral. So we again need to do our slip knot. I already have mine ready. We're going to join on here into this very first stitch of the row. So we get our slip knot. We come here to the front of this row again. As you can see, this is our turning chain. I now have a total of 25 stitches right here. Or I'm sorry, 24, because we have one turning chain. So this turning chain is not what we want to work into. We want to pull that down out of the way so that we don't accidentally mistake it for the first stitch. We're identifying these V's. So if you look, V, 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 we want to make sure that we go into the first one. And because this is our first stitch in the row, it's going to be a traditional single crochet. So we're going to go under that V again. Now we just join on our new color. We're going to draw up that loop. At this point, you can grab tail and working yarn and chain one, or you can just grab your working yarn, but you want to chain one. Now we're going to allow our tail to fall. We will come back down here into the same first stitch. So we're going back in, stretch that out a little bit better, going back here into this first stitch. We're grabbing our yarn, so we're doing a yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over again, pull through two. And that completes our traditional single crochet. From here, we need to begin doing our single crochets in the back loop only, all the way down this row. So that's our repeat for this entire row, is we're doing the back loop only single crochet. So there's one, into the very next stitch, there's two. We can go ahead and pause here, and we'll be meeting back up at the end of the row, just so I can show you that traditional single crochet one more time. We want to make sure we're picking up back loop only and finishing out our single crochet in each and every stitch all the way down this row as well. So please pause here, and I'll meet back up with you in just a moment. We're here at the end of row 2. We have one stitch left, so you see the V right here. We will be going under that V, so we're getting into that complete stitch and finishing out with a traditional single crochet. And now I'm going to chain up 2, clip my yarn, and cinch down. We are now about to begin row number 3. Row number 3, we're switching back over to color A again. So we again have our slip knot. I've created my slip knot right there. And we pick up our work, moving here to the very first stitch in the row. This is another situation where we need to make sure, because we have that chain 1 at the beginning of our row, we want to make sure that we scoot that down. We do not want to work into this. We're looking for the V again. It's really important that you do that. That's why I keep bringing it up. It's our number one place that we will get our count off. So I've inserted here into the first stitch. This begins row 3. We are now going to join on in color A. So for me, that's the gray tone. Same as we did before, we're going to join on that slip knot and draw up a loop. And then you may grab your working yarn and your tail, or just your working yarn, and chain 1. Either is correct. Now we're going to go back down here into the same stitch. So hopefully you guys can see that really well. We go into that same first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And that completes our traditional single crochet. The mosaic work begins on this row. So for row 3, our repeat is starting right now, and our repeat begins with 8 of our drop down double crochets. So yarn over, we identify our next stitch, we slide down 2 rows below, and we find this little bump right here. We're going to turn and pick that up. Now we yarn over and pull up a loop. Nice loose tension. We want to make sure we're not drawing this up. So we want to keep it loose. We're going to yarn over again and pull through 2. Yarn over again and pull through 2. So that's our first drop down double crochet. And all of our double crochets are worked dropping down, meeting up and grabbing up this front loop. So this front loop is left behind by us doing these back loop only single crochets. So when we work in the back loop, we end up with a front loop exposed up here. That is where we're going to be connecting all of our double crochets. So we're going to yarn over again. So this is going to be my second drop down. So yarn over, identify my very next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, finding this little bump right there, turn and pick that up. Now I'm going to yarn over again. So I'm grabbing that yarn and pulling up a loop. Nice loose tension. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. So that's my second drop down double crochet. So we have to do a total of 8. So now we're going to wrap again. Slide down 2 rows below. Finding that little bump, our little front loop, and we're going to grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So that's the third. So we need to keep repeating this total of 8 times. Now I'm going to move a little faster. Here's number 4 for me. Number 5. Number 6. Number 7. And last but not least, number 8. Sorry. Get back up into camera, Courtney. Now we will do 6 of our single crochets worked in that back loop. So we're going to do 6 back loop only single crochets into the next 6 stitches. So there's number 1. Here's number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. Now our repeat will be ending with 7 drop down double crochets over the next 7 stitches. So we're going to wrap again, slide down 2 rows below, picking up that bump, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2, wrap again, slide directly down, finish out our second. We've got to do a total of 7. So there's number 2. So this begins number 3 for me. Wrap again. There's number 4. Wrap again. Number 5. Number 6. And last but not least, number 7. This ends our repeat for this row. So for those of you who are working on something much larger, we're going to recap the repeat. You're going to be starting back over immediately after the 7th stitch that ends our repeat. You're going to start back over doing 8 of the drop down double crochets, 6 back loop only single crochets, and then 7 drop down double crochets. So you're going to keep working the same set of stitches all the way down the rest of your row. So you will pause here, meet back up with me when you've completed your row, and we will do the row end together. So you will have 2 stitches left when you come back to meet up with me. You will have 2 stitches. So please pause and come back in just a moment when you're ready to move on to the end of row 3. We are now here at the end of row 3, and you're going to notice that all of your row ends will work out this exact same way. You will always end your repeat, and you will end up with 2 stitches left on your row. So 1 and 2. We will begin our repeat for 1 stitch. So we do the same thing on each and every row. We're going to begin the repeat for that row. So for this row, our repeat begins with a drop down double crochet. So we yarn over, identify our next stitch, and slide down 2 rows below, finding that front loop. We're going to turn and pick that up and complete our double crochet. So we just grab and pull up a loop, or yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And now, since we have 1 last stitch left in the row, we never can continue our repeat. We always must do our traditional single crochet. So we're going to make sure that we get under that V, going under both of those little legs of the stitch, and we are going to yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and that ends our row. So all of your rows, you will be beginning your repeat for 1 stitch, and then the last stitch in the row will always be the traditional single crochet. So now for me, I'm going to chain up 2, clip my yarn, and we will be moving on to row number 4. So get color B ready, and we'll get started. We are here at the beginning of row number 4. This is what our work is looking like after completing our first 3 rows. We now are going to identify our first stitch. Again, we have this turning chain, and we want to scoot that down out of our way. Those little side bumps, these turning chains, or chain 1, so that's actually what this is a chain 1. They will always move. Your first stitch will not. So we see our first stitch. We're going to insert into that stitch, going under the V. And now we join on color B this time. So back to color B. We'll tighten down that slip knot. We draw up our loop. We grab either tail and working yarn or just our working yarn and chain 1. Now we're going to go back down into the same exact first stitch. So make sure you don't accidentally jump over to the next stitch. So we're into that first stitch again. We're going to grab our yarn and pull up a loop, grab our yarn and pull through 2. So our repeat for row 4 begins with 9 of our single crochets worked in the back loop only over these next 9 stitches. So we begin the repeat now for row 4. We insert, picking up our back loop only, grab and pull through 2. So that's 1, Now we're going to repeat this 8 more times. So here's number 2. Here's number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. Number 7. Number 8. And number 9. Now we will continue our repeat by doing 4 of our drop down double crochets. So these are the double crochets worked in the front loop. So we're going to identify our next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, finding that little bump. That's our front loop. We're going to turn and pick that up. Now we grab our yarn and pull up a loop, nice loose tension. Grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. So that's our first drop down. We're going to now do our second. It's double crochet. So we're going to do number 2. We identify our next stitch. And as you can see, when I kind of pull this way, it can cause some confusion. We're not working here. When you fold this back, you'll see 1 stitch, and 1 stitch is covered by 1 of our double crochets. So we want to make sure that we don't get confused. You can always double check yourself. So I've wrapped my yarn. I know that this is my next stitch. And when I slide down, directly down 2 rows below, I can easily find that front loop, turn and pick that up. So now we continue with our double crochets. So here's number 2. Wrap again, identify the next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, finding that little bump, and we can continue on. Try not to split your yarn. We're going to continue on with number 3, and here's number 4. Now we're going to continue our repeat with a total of 8 of our single crochets worked in the back loop only. So now we do number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8. That ends our repeat for this row. So our repeat began over here with 9 of our back loop only single crochets, 4 drop down double crochets, and it ends with 8 of our back loop only single crochets. So please pause here and continue to work in the same set of stitches all the way down the rest of your row. So for those of you with a bigger swatch or a bigger project, you are now going to start by working 9 back loop only single crochets. So immediately after these 8, you'll begin again with your 9. So keep working that same manner and come back and meet up with me when you have 2 stitches left in your row. We're back here at the end of row 4. I have 2 stitches left, and this is going to work out exactly like this for everyone as long as you've maintained your count. We have these 2 stitches, so we begin our repeat again for this next stitch. So we're going to do a back loop only single crochet. There's 1. And now, since we're at our last stitch in the row, we do our traditional single crochet, making sure that we go under that V. We want to make sure absolutely we're under the V. So we complete our traditional single crochet now. And now we will just chain up and bind off and go back to the start of this row to begin row number 5. Row 5 begins now. We have joined on color A this time. We have our hook inserted into the very first stitch of the row, and we're pulling up a loop. We chain 1, get that tail out of the way, chain 1 and go back down into the same exact first stitch, insert our hook again, and complete our traditional single crochet. working under both of those loops. For row number 5, we are going to begin the repeat with 6 of our drop down double crochets. So we're going to wrap our yarn, identify our very next stitch, slide down 2 rows below again, picking up that bump. It's our front loop, and we're going to continue working in our double crochet positioned in that front loop for a total of 6 stitches. So we have 1. Here is number 2. Slide down. Pull through 2 and pull through 2. Wrap again. Slide down, finding that little front loop, and we're going to complete our 3rd of our double crochets. All of these are drop down. Here's number 4. Here's number 5. And last but not least, here is number 6. Now our repeat's going to continue after the 6th double crochet. We're going to begin doing 10 of our single crochets worked in the back loop. So we want to make sure, fold back, make sure we have 6 stitches back there covered by our 6 double crochets. We go right here into the next stitch and we begin doing our back loop only single crochet. So there's 1, doing a total of 10. Here's number 2. Here's number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. Number 7. Number 8. Number 9. And number 10. Now we will be doing 5 of our drop down double crochets. So we're going to wrap our yarn. We're going to find our next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, finding that little bump. We're going to turn and pick that up. Grab and pull up a loop. Grab and pull through 2. Grab and pull through 2. That's our first drop down double crochet. We're going to do a total of 5. So there's 1. Here's number 2. Number 3. And just remember, we want loose tension when we're pulling up this loop. Down here we want to keep it nice and loose so we don't draw up that front loop. So there's 3. Here's number 4. And here is number 5. And number 5 ends our repeat for this row. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with 6 of our drop down double crochets. And then we move on to 10 back loop only single crochets, followed by 5 of our drop down double crochets to end our repeat. So you're going to keep working the same set of stitches over and over all the way down the rest of your row, and meet back up with me when you're ready to finish the row end. We are now at the end of row 5. We have completed a repeat, our second repeat for most of you, possibly your third, depending on what project you're doing. So you've completed your repeat. We now have 2 stitches left, 1 and 2. So we're going to begin our repeat again for this next stitch. So in this case, we're doing a drop down double crochet because that's what our repeat calls for. So we just drop down and complete our double crochet worked in that front loop. So there's 1. And now we end our repeat because we have 1 stitch left. We must do our traditional single crochet in that very last stitch of the row. So now you can just bind off, clip your yarn, and we will be moving on to row number 6. Row 6 is beginning now. I have already switched over to color B, and I've joined on with my traditional single crochet in that first stitch. So now our repeat for row 6 begins with 7 of our single crochets worked in that back loop. So we just pick up the back loop and complete a total of 7 single crochets. So there's 1. Here's number 2. Oops. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Number 6. And number 7. Now we continue with 2 of our drop down double crochet. So in the very next stitch, we identify, slide down 2 rows below, picking up that bump, a little front loop, and we complete our double crochet. So there's 1, and here's number 2. Now we will do 1 of our back loop only single crochets here into the very next stitch. We will do 2 of our double crochets working in that front loop. So we're dropping down, picking up that bump. So there's 1. And now we need to do a second. So we're going to wrap again, slide down 2 rows below. Now we're going to do 1 back loop only single crochet. And we are going to do 2 drop down double crochets over these next 2 stitches. Right here. Next stitch, slide down. So we're doing 2 drop downs. There's 1. And here is number 2. And then we will do 6 of our back loop only single crochets over these next 6 stitches. So right here into the very next stitch. There's 1. Here's 2. Number 3. Number 4. Sorry guys. Pulling out yarn. Number 5. And number 6 ends our repeat. So we're going to recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here, right here, with a total of 7 back loop only single crochets. Then we did 2 of our drop down double crochets, 1 back loop, 2 drop downs, 1 back loop, 2 drop downs, and then we ended our repeat with 6 of our back loop only single crochets. So you're going to keep working this exact same manner all the way down, doing the same set of stitches on down the rest of your row, and you will meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to the end of row number 6. We are here at the end of row 6. We have 2 stitches left, so our repeat begins again in this very next stitch. So we know our repeat begins with a back loop only single crochet. And then since we're at the end of our row, this very last stitch is always a traditional single crochet. So we make sure we go under that V and finish out with a traditional single. So now we can chain up 2, however you like, and bind off, and we'll be back in just a moment for row number 7. Here's what our work is looking like after completing our first 6 rows. We are now moving on to row number 7. I have already joined on with color A this time. in the first stitch of the row with the traditional single crochet, and our repeat for row 6 begins now. We're going to do 3 of our drop down double crochets, so those are double crochets worked in the front loop. So we're going to wrap our yarn, identify our next stitch, and slide down 2 rows below, picking up our front loop, and we complete the double crochet. So there's number 1. We've got to do a total of 3. There's 1. Here's number 2. And here's number 3. Now we're going to do 6 of our single crochets worked in that back loop. So we're doing the back loop only single crochet. We're doing a total of 6. So there's 1. Here's number 2. Don't split your yarn. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. And number 6. Now we're going to do 1 drop down double crochet right here in between these 2 sets. We're going to go right there, drop down 2 rows below, and finish out our double crochet. So there's 1. Now we're going to do 2 back loop single crochets. There's 1. Here's number 2. We're going to do 1 drop down right here in between this next set of drops. Go down, pick up that little bump, nice loose tension, and now we're going to move on with 6 back loop only single crochet. So there's 1. Here's number 2. Here's number 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we are now going to do 2 drop down double crochets. So there's 1. And here's number 2. And that ends our repeat for this row. So for those of you who are continuing on, we're going to recap our repeat. Our repeat began over here with our 3 drop down double crochets, and then we do a total of 6 back loop only single crochets, 1 drop down double crochet, 2 of our back loop only single crochets, 1 of our drop down doubles, a total of 6 back loop only single crochets, and our repeat ends with our 2 drop down double crochets. So you will continue to work in that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row. So you will start again over here. You're going to start, your next 3 stitches are going to be those drop down double crochets. So you'll do 3 of those and continue on down that same set over and over down the rest of your row, and meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to the end of row 7. So please pause here and come back when you're ready to move on to this row end. For the rest of us, if you're just doing a little swatch with me, we're going to begin our row end now. So this is the end of row 7. So as we have shown each and every time, we have 2 stitches left. So you will start your repeat again in this very next stitch. So right here, I'm going to be doing a double crochet in the front loop. So that's my drop down. That's what I like to call them. So we're going to do 1 double crochet, and then we know we're here at the end of our row. We must do the back loop only single crochet, or I'm sorry, the traditional single crochet. I apologize. Always do a traditional single crochet. That's how we maintain these nice straight sides that you're seeing. If you hide those tails, we're perfectly straight. So now we can chain up and bind off and move on to row number 8. For row 8, we are going to be switching back over to color B, and I've joined on with the color B and done my traditional single crochet here in the very first stitch of the row. Now our repeat for row 8 begins. We're going to begin by doing 4 of our single crochets there in the back loop only. So here's number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Now we will do 4 of our drop down double crochets. So we're working in the front loop. So we identify this next stitch, slide down 2 rows below, picking up that bump. It's our front loop. So we're just going to complete our double crochet. We're going to do a total of 4. So there's 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Pull through 2 and pull through 2. Now we will do 6 of our single crochets worked in that back loop. So we're going to identify our next stitch and do a total of 6 single crochets working there in that back loop only. So there's 2, here's 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we'll do 4 of our drop down double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and number 4. And then our repeat will end by doing 3 of our back loop single crochets over the next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and 3. And that ends our repeat for this row. So we're going to recap that real quick. So our repeat began over here with a total of 4 of our single crochets in the back loop. Then we did 4 of our drop down double crochets, 6 back loop only single crochets, 4 drop down double crochets, and our repeat ends with the 3 back loop only single crochets. So for those of you working a larger swatch, you're going to start over from this point and continue starting with your 4 back loop only single crochets and working the rest of that repeat over and over for as many times as you need until you get to the end of your row. So you'll pause here and we'll meet back up at the end of your row when you have the 2 stitches left. For the rest of us, since we are here at the end of the row, we're going to begin doing our repeat again for the second to last stitch. So we're right here with 2 stitches at the end of our row. We do a back loop only single crochet, and then we know last stitch of the row is our traditional single crochet. And that completes row number 8. So now we're going to clip our yarn and move on for row number 9. We are joining on with color A for row number 9. I have joined on already with my traditional single crochet in the very first stitch. We now begin our repeat for row 9, and our repeat for row 9 begins with 4 of our drop down double crochets. So those are the double crochets worked in the front loop. So we begin right here in the very next stitch, slide down 2 rows below and pick up that front loop that's left, and we're going to grab and pull up a loop, grab and pull through 2, and grab and pull through 2. So that's our first drop down. We are now going to move on to the second. We're going to do a total of 4. So here's number 2, number 3, and number 4. We will now do 4 of our back loop only single crochet. So there's 1, and pulling out some more yarn, sorry about that. Here's number 2, back loop only, number 3, and number 4. We will now do 2 of our drop down double crochets. So in the next 2 stitches, I'm going to slide down 2 rows below. So there's number 1, here's number 2, oops. We will do 2 of our back loop only single crochets. There's 1, here's number 2. Now we will do 2 more drop downs on the double crochet. So we're going to do 2 more double crochets, working in that front loop. So there's 1, and here's number 2. Oops. Now we need to do 4 of our back loop only single crochet. So again, working in that back loop, I'm going to do 4 single crochets, 1 in each of the next 4 stitches, back loop only. There's 2, here's number 3, and number 4. And then we will end our repeat by doing 3 of our double crochets. So we're dropping down 2 rows below, just as we have been. Here's 1, here's number 2, and number 3. And that ends our repeat. So this 3rd stitch ends that repeat. So our repeat began over here on this side with 4 of our double crochets. Then we did a total of 4 of the back loop single crochets, 2 more doubles, 2 back loop single crochets, 2 drop down double crochets, 4 of our back loop only single crochets, and then our repeat ends with the 3 drop down double crochets. So we're just doing those same 2 stitches all the way down the row, working in this exact same repeat, So you're going to start back over with your 4 drop down double crochets and continue working in the same manner over and over all the way down the rest of your row. And you will pause here and meet back up with me when you're ready to do the end of row number 9. And for those of you who are working right here with me, we're at the end of row 9. We again have 2 stitches left. So just like we've been doing, we're going to start our repeat for the very next stitch. We have 1 stitch that we can begin the repeat in. So we begin that right now with a drop down double. And then we do a back or a traditional single crochet. Sorry about that, in the very next stitch. So if you take a look as you're working this pattern repeatedly, it's going to work out the exact same way. And our row beginnings and ends are going to match up. So if you keep working your repeat all the way down your row and you keep track of your repeat and you continue it, when you get down here, you're just starting your repeat again for the 1 stitch and then ending your row always with your traditional single crochet. So we're going to now move on to row 10, and we're going to speed it up just a bit more. I'm not going to show the row end anymore because you guys are aware of exactly what to do. So I think that we will be okay if we skip these last 2 stitches and save me some time in the filming and hopefully some aggravation from you guys having to see the same thing over and over. So we're going to pause and meet back up for row 10 in just a moment. Row 10 is beginning now. We are joining back with color B. And for me, I've already completed the traditional single crochet. Our repeat for row 10 begins with 5 of our single crochets worked in that back loop. So we're just going to insert right there into the very next stitch. Let me get that tail all the way. And complete our single crochet in the back loop. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we will do one of our drop down double crochets. So that's a double crochet worked here into this front loop 2 rows below. So do one of those. Now we will do 4 of our single crochets in the back loop. So here's 1. Here's number 2. 3 and 4. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets. 1, and 2. Now we will do 4 of our single crochets, back loop only. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will do 1 of our double crochets. And then we will do 4 of our single crochets, working in that back loop over the next 4 stitches, and that will end our repeat. So there's number 2, number 3, and number 4. And when we get to the end of our row, we'll have the 2 stitches left. We just simply begin our repeat again for 1 stitch, and then traditional single crochet in the last. We're going to recap our repeat real quick for those of you who need that. We begin the repeat over here with 5 of our single crochets working in the back loop only. Then we do 1 of our drop down double crochets, so it's a double crochet worked in the front loop. Then we do 4 of our back loop single crochets, 2 more of our double crochets, 4 of our single crochets, 1 double crochet, and then our repeat ends with 4 of our single crochets. So we'll be starting back over and moving on down our row for larger projects by beginning again doing the 5 and completing all these stitches over and over as many times as you need to meet to your row end. So we'll be meeting back up for row number 11, working in color A. Here's what our work is looking like before we begin row 11. For row 11, we're meeting back up for color, or joining on with color A. I've already done my traditional single crochet in the first stitch of the row. Our repeat for row 1 begins. We're going to start with a double crochet. So we're doing our drop down double crochet just like we've been doing. Nothing has changed. So we drop down 2 rows below, finish that double crochet. Now we're going to do 5 of our single crochets, working in that back loop only. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets. So same thing, dropping down just like before. There's 1. Here's 2. Now we will do a total of 6 of our single crochets. Still working in that back loop. All of our stitches are exactly the same as far as position goes. So there's number 3. We got to do a total of 6. 4, 5, and 6. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets. So right here, very next stitch, slide down, finding that little front loop, Oops, I'm catching. Sorry about that. There's one. And here's our second double crochet. And now we will do 5 of our single crochets in the back loop to finish out our repeat. So there's 1, here's 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with our double crochet. Then we did a total of 5 of our back loop only single crochets. We did 2 double crochets, 6 of our single crochets, 2 double crochets, and our repeat ended with 5 of our single crochets. So for the end of our row, we're just going to begin our repeat for the 1 stitch. So this time it's a drop down double crochet and then single crochet in the last stitch. For those of you who are not at your row end, you're going to keep working from thumb to thumb, basically, continuing on down the rest of your row, and then we'll be meeting back up for row number 12. Row 2 begins now, but this is what our work is looking like. We are beginning with row 2. We are switching back, or I'm sorry, row 12. We are switching back to color B this time. So I've done my single crochet there in the very first stitch of the row. We now start our repeat for row 12 with 2 of our back loop single crochets. There's 1, here's 2. We will now do 4 of our double crochets. It's dropping down 2 rows below. There's 1. 2, 3, and 4. Now we will do 2 of our single crochets. There's 1 and 2. We will do 2 of our double crochets. 1. Oops. One more time. There's 1. And here's number 2. 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches. Remember, back loop only on all of these. Then we will do 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. 2 single crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And then we will do 4 of our drop down double crochets. So 4 of our double crochets over the next 4 stitches. There's 1. Here is 2. 3 and 4. Now we will end our repeat with 1 back loop only single crochet. So our repeat began over here by doing the 2 back loop only single crochets. Then we did 4 drop down doubles, 2 back loop single crochets, 2 drop downs, 2 of our back loop singles, 2 drop down doubles, 2 back loop singles, 4 drop down double crochets, and our repeat ended with 1 back loop only single crochet. So we'll be working in this exact same manner on down the rest of your row until you have reached the end of your row, where you will finish up by beginning your repeat again and then doing a traditional single crochet in the last stitch. We're now beginning row 13. We've joined on, this time with color A. Traditional single crochet in that first stitch. Our repeat for this row begins with 2 of our double crochets. So we're working right here in the very next stitch, dropping down 2 rows below, picking up that front loop. Little bump is what I like to call it. And complete our first double crochet. Here's our second. Now we will do 4 of our single crochets working in that back loop. So right there into the very next stitch. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we will do 1 of our double crochets. So we're just going to drop down 2 rows below, picking up that bump. There's 1. Now we'll do 3 of our back loop single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets right here, dropping down. There's 1. Here's our second to the very next stitch. Now we will do 3 of our back loop single crochets. There's 1, 2, and 3. Now we will do 1 of our double crochets. Followed by 4 of our back loop only single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now repeat ends with 1 of our double crochets. Dropping down 2 rows below, finding that little front loop. I finished that out. So that ends our repeat. So we're going to recap that. Our repeat began over here with our 2 drop down double crochets. Then we did 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 3 of our single crochets, 2 of our double crochets, 3 of our single crochets, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet. All of those are worked either in the front loop or back loop, just like we have been. And you can kind of see what we're doing here and how we're framing it out. So you're going to pause here and continue to work on down the rest of your row, and then you will just start to repeat again at the end of the row and finish up with your single crochet, the traditional one, right here in the last stitch of the row. So we'll be back for row 14. Row 14 is worked in color B. I've already joined on with that traditional single crochet. Our repeat for row 14 is beginning now. We're going to do 2 or 3 of our back loop single crochets. So there's number 1. Here's 2. And 3. We will now do 2 of our double crochets. So we're dropping down, working in that front loop. There's 1 and 2. Now we will do a total of 2 single crochets over these next 2 stitches. Back loop only, just like we've been doing. Now we will do 2 of our drop down doubles. So we're doing our double crochet, dropping down 2 rows below. Don't split your yarn. I love to do that on camera. And so there's 1, and here's number 2. Now we're going to do 4 of our back loop single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we will do 2 more drop downs. So we're doing our double crochet. 1 and 2. Now 2 of our back loop singles. Back loop single crochets, 1 and 2. And now we're going to wrap again, and we're going to do 2 more of our drop down double crochets right here in these next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And our repeat will end by doing 2 of our back loop only single crochets over the next 2 stitches. There's 1 and 2. That leaves us with the 2 stitches at the end of the row where we can just start our repeat again. So our repeat began over here with our 3 back loop only single crochets. Then we did our 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 4 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 2 single crochets. So you're going to keep working in that exact same manner on down. As you can see, we're here at the dead center basically on the pattern. We're going to start working it back in. So row 14, repeat on down the rest of your row, and then we'll be back for row 15. Remember, just continue your repeat when you get down to those last 2 stitches. Row 15 begins, and we're working color A. I've completed that traditional single crochet. We now are going to do 2 of our double crochets in the next 2 stitches. Let's get that tail out of the way. So we wrap and we go down 2 rows below. And we're going to do 2 double crochets over the next 2 stitches. That tail is just in the way. I apologize. So here's our second. Now we will be doing 4 single crochets, working in that back loop as always, doing our 4 single crochets. So there's 1, here's number 2, 3, and 4. Now we will do 1 of our drop down doubles. So we're doing our double crochet. There's 1. Now we will do 3 single crochets, working in that back loop over the next 3 stitches. There's 1, here's 2, and 3. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets right here over the next 2 stitches. So there is number 1 and number 2. Now we will do 3 of our back loop singles. So we're doing our single crochet again, 3 of those. There's 2 and 3. We will do 1 of our double crochets right there in the very next stitch. There's 1. Then we will do 4 of our single crochets over the next 4 stitches. So there's 1. Oops. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we will end our repeat with 1 of our double crochets right here. Next stitch. So we're going to recap our repeat. Our repeat began over here with these 2 double crochets. Then we did our 4 back loop single crochets, 1 more double crochet, 3 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 3 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, and our repeat ends with 1 double crochet. So for those of you who are going to continue on, you're going to start back over with 2 double crochets and continue to work in that exact same manner, doing the same set of stitches all the way down your row. We will be back for row 16, and just remember what we do here at the beginning of the row. We're going to copy that down here because we're just going to start the repeat for 1 stitch. Row 16 begins now. We've switched back to color B, and for row 16 our repeat's going to begin right away. Of course, I've already joined on and done my single crochet in the first stitch, but we're going to be doing our 2 back loop only single crochets, or working in the back loop only, doing 2 of those stitches in the next 2 stitches. So there's 1, here is number 2, And then we will do 4 of our double crochets. So we're dropping down just like we have been, working in that front loop. There's 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Sorry, getting a little low, I apologize. Now I'm going to do 2 single crochets, working in that back loop again. 1 and 2. Now we will do 2 double crochets right here, next 2 stitches. There's 1, and here's number 2. We're going to do 2 of our single crochets over these next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And we will do 2 of our drop down double crochets in the next 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Now we will do 4. I'm sorry, we're going to do 2 of our back loop only single crochets. So 1 and 2. And now we will do 4 of our drop down double crochets. There's 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. And then we will end our repeat by doing 1 of our single crochets, working in that back loop in the very next stitch. And that ends the repeat. So we're going to recap that real quick. You're going to begin again working your 2 back loop only single crochets, and then we will do 4 of our double crochets, 2 of our single crochets, 2 double crochets, 2 singles, 2 doubles, 2 single crochets again, 4 double crochets, and then we'll end the repeat with 1 back loop only single crochet. So you're doing 1 of your single crochets. So you're going to keep working that exact same set of stitches. So you'll begin again doing the 2 right back up against this one over here that we ended with. Keep working in that exact same manner on down the rest of your row, and you'll meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to row number 17. Row 17 begins now. We are working in color A. Our repeat for row 17 is going to begin with 1 of our drop down double crochet. So we're doing our double crochet, wrap our yarn, slide down 2 rows below, picking up that front loop that we left behind, and we finish out our double crochet. Now we're going to do 5 of our single crochets over the next 5 stitches. And just remember, at any time, if you are unsure where your next stitch is, fold back that double crochet. You will see 1 stitch behind 1 double crochet. So if you got 5 double crochets, you're going to have 5 stitches back there. So we know that this is our next stitch. So we're going to begin doing 5 of our back loop single crochet. So there's 1. Here's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets. So we're dropping down 2 rows below. There's 1, and here's number 2. We will now do 6 of our single crochets. So working in that back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets over the next 2 stitches. So there's 1, and here's 2. Oops, getting all caught up. There's number 2. And then we will do 5 of our single crochets. Still working in that back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that ends our repeat for this row. So let's recap that real quick. We worked a drop down double crochet to start our repeat, and then we have 5 of our back loop only single crochets, 2 of our drop down double crochets, 6 of our back loop only single crochets, then 2 of our drop down double crochets, and then our repeat ends with 5 of our back loop only single crochets. So keep working that exact same manner on down the rest of your row. Meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to row number 18. Row 18 begins. We were working in color B this time. We are going to begin the repeat for row 18 by starting out doing 5 of our back loop single crochets. So we're working right here, very next stitch, back loop only. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now in the very next stitch, we're going to do our drop down double. So we're doing our double crochet. We're dropping down 2 rows below, picking up that front loop and finishing out a double crochet. Now we need to do 4 of our back loop single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we'll do 2 double crochets, just as we have been doing. There's 1. Oops, lost it all. 1 and 2. We will do 4 of our single crochets, working in that back loop. 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will do 1 drop down, so 1 of our double crochets, and then 4 of our back loop single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That ends our repeat for this row. So let's recap that real quick. We begin our repeat with 5 of our single crochets, 1 double crochet, 4 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 4 single crochets, 1 double crochet, and then our repeat ends with 4 single crochets. So for those of you with a bigger swatch, you're just going to start back over with your 5 single crochets and keep working the same set of stitches all the way down the rest of your row. Start your repeat over again when you get down to that end of the row, and your row beginning and end will end up matching. So we'll be back in just a moment for row 19. For row 19, we're working in color A again. Our repeat for row 19 is beginning right now. We're going to be doing 4 of our double crochets. So we're just going to simply drop down 2 rows below and do that front loop double crochet. So we've got to do a total of 4. There's 1. Here's 2. Number 3. And number 4. Now we will do 4 of our single crochets, working in that back loop. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets. 1 and 2. We will do 2 of our single crochets, working in that back loop, and then we will do 2 double crochets. We're dropping down 2 rows below, working in the front loop. 1 and 2. Now we'll do 4 of our single crochets. Back loop. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we will do 3 of our double crochets, dropping down 2 rows below. 1, 2, and 3. And that ends our repeat. That third one. So let's recap that. We began over here with 4 of our double crochets. Then we did 4 single crochets, 2 of our double crochets, 2 single crochets, 2 double crochets, 4 single crochets, and 3 of our double crochets. Drop down. So you will continue to work in the same exact manner all the way down the rest of your row. Meet back up with me when you are ready to move on to row number 20. Row 20 begins now. We're working in color B this time. Joined on already with my traditional single crochet in that first stitch. We will begin our repeat for row 20 by doing 4 of our single crochets. So we're working there in the back loop. Nothing is changing. 1, here's 2, 3, and 4. Now we'll do 4 of our double crochets. So dropping down 2 rows below. There's 1, here's 2, 3, and 4. We will now do a total of 6 of our back loop only single crochets. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we'll do 4 of our double crochets. We're dropping down just like we have been. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we will end our repeat by doing 3 single crochets in that back loop over the next 3 stitches. There's 2, and here's number 3. So we are going to recap our repeat. Our repeat began over here with the 4 single crochets. Then we did 4 double crochets, 6 single crochets. So we're framing out around our shape. So there's 6 single crochets right here. And then we did 4 more double crochets. And we end our repeat with those 3 single crochets. So you're going to keep working in that same set of stitches over and over all the way down the rest of your row. Meet back up with me when you're ready to move on to row 21. We are almost there. We've got to get to row 25 to end this tutorial. So we'll be done soon. Row 21 begins now. We are working in color A. We will begin our repeat immediately for this row. Our repeat begins with 3 of our double crochets. So we're going to wrap, drop down 2 rows below, and complete 3 double crochets over the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, here's number 2, and number 3. Now we will do 3 single crochets, working in that back loop. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to be doing a total of 6 of those. 3. And here's 4, 5 and 6. So 6 of our single crochets. Now we are going to do 1 drop down double crochet, followed by 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, 1 double crochet, 6 of our single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we will do 2 of our double crochets here to end this repeat. So there's 1 and 2. And now let's recap that. So our repeat began over here with the 3 of our double crochets right here. Then we did 6 of our single crochets working in that back loop. Then we did our double crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 double crochet, 6 of our single crochets, and our repeat ended with 2 double crochets. So you're going to work in that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row, and then you will meet back up with me when you're ready to do row number 22. Here's what our work is looking like. We are now moving on to row 22. Row 22, of course, is worked in color B. So we're going to join on with that single crochet, first stitch of the row, and then our repeat for row 22 begins now. We're going to begin by doing a total of 7 of our single crochets, working there in that back loop. I'm going to do 7 of those over the next 7 stitches. So there's 1. Here's number 2. 3. 4. 5. 6 and 7. Now we will do 2 of our double crochets, dropping down 2 rows below. There's 1 and 2. Now we will do 1 single crochet in the next stitch, followed by 2 more double crochets over the next 2 stitches. 1 and here's 2. Now we will do 1 single crochet over this next stitch, and then 2 double crochets. I, of course, dropped all of that. There's 1, and here is 2. And then we will end our repeat by doing a total of 6 of our single crochets, working in that back loop over the next 6 stitches. There's 1, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's recap that repeat. Our repeat began over here with 7 of our single crochets. Then we did 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 double crochets, and we end with 6 single crochets. So you're going to continue on down your row in that same set of stitches, starting again with your 7 single crochets, and then you'll meet back up with me when you're ready for row number 23. For row 23, we're going to be working in color A this time. I have joined on, of course, with the traditional single crochet. Our repeat for row 23 begins with 6 of our double crochets. So we're working, dropping down into that front loop just like we have been doing. So we're going to do a total of 6 double crochet. So there's 1. Here's number 2. Number 3. 4. 5. And 6. Now we will do a total of 10 single crochets, again working in that back loop. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, here's 7, 8, 9, and yarn knot, 10. Now we will do 5 of our double crochets over the next 5 stitches to end our repeat. So there's 1, number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So let's recap our repeat because it just ended there with the 5 double crochets. We began the repeat over here with 6 double crochets. We did 10 of our single crochets, and then our repeat ends with 5 double crochets. So you will just begin working again with your 6 double crochets on down the rest of your row, following the same set of stitches as many times as you need to. And we'll be meeting back up for row number 24. Row 24 begins now. We're working in color B this time. We are going to begin doing our repeat right away, just like we have been doing. So we begin the repeat for row 24 by doing 9 of our single crochets, working there in the back loop. So we're going to begin with number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now we're going to do 4 of our drop down double crochets. So we're doing the 4 double crochets right here, working into that front loop 2 rows below. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. We will now do 8 single crochets, working again that back loop. Total of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that ends our repeat for this row. So for row 24, our repeat began over here. We did 9 single crochets, 4 double crochets, and we end our repeat with 8 single crochets. So you'll keep working that same set of stitches on down the rest of your row, meeting back up with me for row 25, which is our last row. We are joining back up together for row 25. It's our final row. This is what your work is looking like. I pretty much cannot even fit it all into the camera, but row 25 is our last row. We're working in color A this time. We are going to be doing our traditional single crochet in the first stitch, which I've already done. I'm going to lower the camera down for you. We begin the repeat for row 25 by doing 8 of our double crochets. So we're doing our drop down double crochets, total of 8 of them. So we're going to slide down 2 rows below, picking up that front loop, little bump as I like to call it, and we're going to complete a total of 8 of these. So there's 1. Here's number 2. Here's number 3. Number 4. 5. 6. 7. And 8. Now we will do 6 single crochets, working in that back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we will do a total of 7 drop down double crochets. So we're doing our 7 double crochets over the next 7 stitches. Here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and that ends our repeat for row 25. So to complete the rest of your row, you're going to begin working again in a set of 8 double crochets. This is where our repeat begins. 8 double crochets, 6 single crochets, 7 double crochets. So pretty simple to keep up with. So you will be completing the rest of your row, and then for those of you who want to see this, I'm going to show you the row end real quick. At the end of the row, 2 stitches left. We've just completed our repeat, so we know we need to start the repeat again for 1 stitch. So that's a double crochet in this case. And then we do our traditional single crochet right there in the last stitch, just as we've been doing. We chain up and clip our yarn so we can bind off. For those of you who are going to complete multiple repeats of this pattern, so someone who is going to make a very large project or a pillow, something of that nature, if you are going to complete multiple repeats of this pattern, so this is 1 full repeat. Well, you can basically see here in the camera. So if you're going to keep moving up for additional repeats of the same pattern, you will be rewinding back to row 2. So you'll go from row 2 and work row 2 through 25 as many times as you like to complete your project. And I appreciate you guys so much for watching. I did have to move quite a bit faster in this one and cut out some of the extras because it is such a large pattern. And it has been many, many hours of filming for me, and now it's several hours for you guys to watch it. So hopefully I didn't move too fast. Keep in mind you can always rewind the video for more help or slow down the playback. I will try to mention that in the beginning of the video as well, or put it on screen. And until next time, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and leave me a comment below if you have any questions at all. Thank you as always. Bye for now.